My name is Jeff O'Keefe. I am the executive director of Zen Peacemakers. And you didn't come to listen to me, you came to listen to our esteemed and dear friends. So I want to hand this over. Today we're so blessed to have uh, uh, Peggy and Larry Ward from the Lotus Institute, who are senior Dharma teachers in the tradition of Thich Nhat Hanh, as well as Matt and Mona, who are going to assist in the presentation. And I'm so happy and appreciative that they're joining us here. December gets to be really busy for everybody, so I always feel like we got lucky if we can schedule things in December. So with that, I'm going to say thank you so much, deep appreciation for everyone here, and I'll turn this over to my new friend Matt.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Jeff. We were we were talking before we started about elevation. Jeff shared with me his elevation in Colorado, and I found out that mine here in Calgary, Canada, is 3,428 feet. So that is the perhaps useless or perhaps useful fact that came out of our introduction. But we are so grateful to be here, and thank you for coming. There's 1,000 different Zoom rooms you could be in, but you chose to be in this one with us. So we truly appreciate that. Just a show of hands, has anyone never heard of Lotus Institute before or has never been to one of our events? Okay, great. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I see some friends of ours from our community who are new to Zen Peacemakers and vice versa. So I think that's really beautiful that we're coming together in this way. I am Matt Dorma, he, him. I live in Calgary, Canada, city named Mohkinstsis in the indigenous land of the Blackfoot, the Tsuut'ina, the Nakota, and the Métis. I've been working with Lotus Institute for about 2 years now. I'm their communications director, but I came to know of Larry and Peggy as teachers through the Plum Village tradition of engaged Buddhism through Thich Nhat Hanh. That is my personal practice community within the Zen tradition. And that's how I found Peggy and Larry on a Zoom call just like this. And through that, had the rare opportunity to work with them. So that's kind of a bit about me, but I'm here to kind of introduce the day. So I'm going to share 3 things with you, introduce our team, share a tiny bit about our organization, where we started and our focus as we move forward into New Year's, as well as kind of just giving you a bit of a rundown as to how we are envisioning our time together unfolding. So that's how we'll go for it. But to start, I just wanted to share some gratitude for Zen Peacemakers. It's a real honor for us to be members of the affiliate program and to partner on these events. We often share events, newsletter communications, and other important teachings with Jeff and with Chloe and Jim and the others in the organization. So thank you so much for sharing our work and for being together on this path. One thing that we share is a focus on putting these Buddhist teachings and applying them within the lens of social action. And that is a very important part of our Lotus Institute, is how can we take these teachings and apply them in a practical way in the real world in important issues. So that's a bit about me. We also have my dear friend Mona, who you can see on the screen there. She's waving. Hi, Mona. She's in Mexico City right now, doing a little bit of home hunting. So Mona is our operations and systems lead. You may see her facilitating some of our events. She helps me a ton when it comes to how things operationally work at our organization, finance, our tools and systems to run this organization. And outside of that, she is a fantastic somatic therapist. Somatics is relating to the body, and one part of what today will be is a bit of a somatic exercise, a accessible and universal kind of way to work with our bodies. So that's Mona. Behind Maitreya there, in front of Maitreya, the future Buddha, is Peggy Reward. Peggy is our bowing in now. Peggy is our director of education, as well as our co-founder, and what I would say is our guiding teacher. Both her and Larry are our organization's guiding teachers. Peggy, and Larry. Larry's off screen, but he's there as well. You can imagine he's waving there right now. He's probably taking care of their little four-legged dog, Tashi, who also is a guiding teacher. Tashi's name is True Source of the Bone. I think he has a Dharma name himself. That's a conversation for another day, but some friends of ours honored our dogs with teaching names. So Larry is here as well. Larry is our executive director, our co-founder, and our guiding teacher. Peggy and Larry are living in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And you may also know Larry from the book America's Racial Karma, An Invitation to Heal. And Peggy and Larry also co-wrote the book Love's Garden, A Guide to Mindful Relationships. So I can share some links later in the chat, but those are two really beautiful books to really guide your practice. So what is Lotus Institute? We are a nonprofit organization founded in 1996. And our focus is teachings that kind of work at the intersection of mindfulness practice, Buddhist psychology, neuroscience, and somatics. That is that crossroads right in the middle of the four-way stop where we love to work within. Larry and Peggy's roots are also through Plum Village. As Jeff mentioned, they were ordained as senior Dharma teachers by Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, and they spent many years living at monasteries in France and also traveling the world with the monastics and with Thich Nhat Hanh to provide these teachings across the globe. So that is a strong part of our foundation, is Plum Village and Zen, but we also hope to spread our teachings out into other areas as well, through secular mindfulness communities, through working with Jewish communities in New York, Tibetan Buddhist communities. So something that's really important for us is an interfaith focus, that this path that we are all on is bigger than one tradition, and to provide opportunities for us all to gather in beloved community to move towards justice, wellness, and peace. So how do we do that? We offer teachings online, whether it's a Dharma talk, a retreat, in-person online retreats, monthly meditations, and we also have a series of online courses. So those are kind of the main chunks of how we provide those teachings. So today we thought, well, why don't we only have it 90 minutes together? Why don't we kind of create a little sample plate for you? We'll do a little bit of all those things, and we can spend some time together. You can learn more about Lotus, and then maybe through that, you can find ways that work for you to come and join one of our events in the future. So today, how we'll unfold the rest of this session, Muna, after I'm done rambling, is going to lead us in a short body exercise, a somatic exercise. And then Peggy's going to lead us in a guided meditation. Larry will offer a short Dharma talk. And then we'll have an open Q&A where anyone here can ask any questions, and we can just kind of have a discussion, a very casual, informal chat to get to know each other better. So that's kind of what we're going to do today. I'll watch the Zoom chat too. If anyone has any questions or anything like that, I can respond to anything in the Zoom chat as well. So that's it from me. I'm going to bow out and pass it off to my dear friend Muna to lead us in a short exercise. Thank you for being here, everyone.
Thanks so much, Matt. Okay, so yes, my name is Mona, and I'm here in Mexico City. So I do have some things that I need to tend to, so I will be popping off after the exercise, but I'm happy to be here with you all in this moment. Okay, so I want to invite all of you to feel into your seat on your chair or wherever you may be sitting, and start to kind of lean forward and backward and feel into, okay, actually, where do I want to sit? What does feel comfortable for me? Maybe you might notice as you're doing this, oh, I was leaning pretty far forward, or I was leaning pretty far backward. And just feel into what feels good right now? Where do I want to sit in this moment? And once you find this space, I'm going to invite you to just take a nice deep breath. And allow that breath to bring you to that contact between you and your seat. Maybe bring some touch to your legs, saying like, oh, okay, yes, I'm here. My body's here. And then bringing some touch to your stomach, your belly, wherever feels comfortable. Allowing a breath here and allowing your hands to really feel this breath in your belly. And then you're going to come up, bring your hands to your chest, your heart space. 1, 2, whatever feels good. And again, bringing that breath, and this time really focusing on the expansion, the contact between your chest and your hands. And offering yourself a note of kindness, of gratitude for this body, for all of the parts of you that get to show up, for all of the parts of you that get to be present and absorbing and participating in this today, in all that you participate in each day. Giving that little note of gratitude and taking a breath after you do so, letting it sink in, letting that note move through all the way down to your toes. And then just taking a moment, you can bring your hands to wherever feels comfortable and take a moment here, noticing what it's like in your body now, having brought some attention to it. Seeing what it's like to show up in connection with your body. Thank you. Thank you for joining me in this practice, and I'll pass it on to Peggy.
Thanks, Matt and Mona. I feel so happy to have such wise, kind support. And I hope you have a very successful trip finding a place where you can settle. So thank you so much. So we're going to continue a little bit with the somatics, with a little polyvagal nerve. So I invite you just to warm up your hands. You're okay rubbing your hands, getting them warm, depending on where you are. I know we're at different temperatures. Our studio room in our home is very cold. So I'm doing a little bit extra warm up. You can find a lot of great information from the work of Deb Dana in particular, with very practical tools to help us settle our nervous system. So let's just begin with rubbing our ears. And those of you that know Chinese medicine know that a lot happens with the ears. But just rubbing them real gently, the whole ear. Breathing. Don't forget to breathe. Breathing, breathing. Notice what you notice. Ears have their own symphony. Meet your ears, get a lot of nerve endings. And then up at the top of the ear, you can use your pointer fingers Make slow circles. We're going to go both directions, so you can start either way. Breathing. Noticing what you notice again with your breath and body. If there's any changes, maybe, maybe not. It's okay. And now we're just going to give our ears a tug out to the side, gentle tug. This is also can be really helpful with headaches. Tugging the ears. Okay. Saying hello to your ears this morning, and we're going to rub our hands again. We're going to cup our eyes and jaw and heart and belly in a few seconds. We'll do this 3 times. Okay, so we're going to cup our eyes and breathe. Just letting the eyes rest. You can decide if your eyes want to be open or closed. Just keep the focus soft. And 3 soft breaths. Then the jaw. When I work with kids, they call this the oh my position. I find it a very tender moment just to bring warmth, the breath to my jaw. In the heart, both hands on top of each other on the heart. And then sliding one hand down over the Dante and the belly below the navel. This particular posture is very grounding. Might notice that. Okay, we're going to do that again. If your hands need to be warmer, rub them again. Mine are warming up good. Yeah, over the eyes, cupping them and breathing. You could send some loving kindness. Inviting the eyes to release any tension. The jaw. Both hands over the heart. Breathing into the front and back side of the heart. It's often kind of tight on the back side. And then heart and lower belly again. And I'm hearing one of my teacher's mantras right now. I have arrived, I am home. Might try that one. Okay, one more time. Over the eyes. Breathing and over the jaw. And feeling the warmth and the light from your hands, just connecting with the jaw. All kinds of nerve endings there that get tight. And the heart. And the heart and belly. And gently moving your hands off your body or placing them wherever would feel comfortable. Thighs, mudra, keeping them on your heart and belly. Whatever feels right, let your hands tell you. We're just going to do a little bit of guided practice. Muna invited us to feel our most comfortable place with the chair. Let's also tune into safety. Tune into your body and mind, and do I feel safe? Aware of the space that you're in. And it can be useful to, with soft eyes, turn your head and neck really slowly to the left and to the right, real slowly. Slow with the breath. Is there safety to the left and safety to the right? Safety before me, safety behind me, above and below. A time of ongoing traumatic input to our nervous system. And the news right now can give us like a whiplash. So this movement comes from physical therapy. It's called the orienting response. And as we breathe and settle with our neck, it can be helpful to come home again to our latitude and longitude, to our elevation. Again, notice what you notice. And Matt, maybe we will just have a bell. This is going to be very short. Following your breath if that feels comfortable, and if it doesn't, follow a sound. Breathing in, know that you are breathing in. Or hearing with these warmed up ears. Know that you are listening to the universe, in and out. We'll have a bell in a second. In this last moment, though, just imagine any energies of light, of love, of goodness, to let that settle into your body. Letting that light, letting that energy settle. In neuroscience, this is called saving it to the hard drive. In particular, I like to talk to my nerve endings. Imagine this light just caressing the nerve endings that some of us might be feeling frayed. And soak it in, just soak, marinate. You might find you need to sigh or yawn. Matt, if you can invite the bell. Bow to community, and sometimes you might want to shake out your feet or your legs, or so when we work with the nervous system, we're trying to release some of the stuck energy of fear, of anger, of hurt, of despair that is really ripe right now. I know our communities are really struggling with Israel, Gaza, Ukraine, Russia, the most obvious wars in the world right now. So thank you for your practice, and I'd like to invite Larry. Oh, I got you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Greetings, beloved ones. A poem for you. Into the circle of all beings we have come, with sunshine, tree, raven, coyote, deer, rabbit, stars, and precious moonlight. May our feet walk gently in the sands of time, echoing purpose, peace, and creative caring throughout this land. Beloved community, our heart's greatest desire, our human birthright, our destiny in every moment. It lives in our bones and minds as if a dream deferred. And yet, here we are, now touching and being touched by its true presence. Celebrate this moment, this gathering of working dreams. I join my hands and pray that all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas throughout space and time rise up from the earth at this precious hour. May these sacred energies bless us with boundless love and awaken in us our very best selves, so that we may sing the songs of siblings who have come through the mist of ignorance. May the cup of compassion within our hearts pour out, covering the whole earth, both near and far. May the nectar of kindness touch our lips as we speak. May we find in ourselves the vast blue sky of inclusiveness, and may our hands turn the wheel of time toward a more just world, a more beautiful world, a world that is worthy of our holy lives. My instructions that I'm supposed to share a little bit more about the Lotus Institute. I will say just a couple of things. One is our name is inspired by the Lotus Sutra. And I have every copy in English available in the world. And I was so inspired by the monastic life. I always have wondered, how can I do this and not be a monk? Or how can I live a contemplative life in the world? And I had a conversation more than once, but several times with Thich Nhat Hanh, and he said, you know, you've chosen the hard way to try to be a layperson and walk the path, live the path. And I said, I'm not worried about what's happening on the mountaintop. I'm worried about what's happening in the valley. And so that's where I have placed myself on purpose. And the beautiful contribution of the Lotus Sutra is about the Bodhisattva path. And one of the most challenging things for us as we go through different generations in the Buddhist tradition, of course, this is true from the beginning, is the practice of skillful means. How do we transmit the teachings? How do we apply the practices in the time we're in, with the people we're with the crises we have in our lives and in our societies? And so the Lotus Institute is fundamentally committed to, in my mind and in my heart, to recognizing the Bodhisattva qualities that exist in people across the world today, most of whom don't know it. And don't know it can be nurtured, and don't know it can be deepened, and don't know it can be blessed with community of multiple languages and shades and sizes of people in shared energy. And over the last year, our team has put together a kind of guiding post for ourselves for how we want to design the qualities we want to make sure that are in our programs, in our retreats, and in everything we do, in our interaction with one another. The first thing is, we think intergenerational training, activities, retreats, programming, and mentoring is crucial for the future of our planet. So we're looking forward as we move to intergenerational activity. Secondly, we just did a retreat here in Oklahoma over the weekend, and the age range was 19 to 90. This is what we must do, because together we can do it, but not as separate little pieces. We have to align our energy. I don't mean we have to do the same thing. I mean, we have to align our energy with the profound transformation that Earth is calling for us right now. And there's a million ways we need to do it. And so, and my grandmother's voice would be, there's no excuse. So find a way to do it. If you're a teacher, do it that way. If you're a gardener, do it that way. If you're a business person, do it that way. Do it in the concrete experience of your blessed life. And so for us, 3 guideposts as we look forward to the future. One of them is with 3 circles. And the 3 circles are transforming the narrative of superiority. As we look at the world, as we look at the suffering in the world, it is very clear to us that unless we transform the story we have about what it means to be a human being, we will continue to define ourselves by what we are not. That is just the root of war. Now, we've been taught that we are dangerous, to be feared of, and in part that's correct. You know that's correct. I know that's correct. The animals we live with know that's correct. But we are not just that. Each of us has the qualities of a bodhisattva, of wisdom and kindness within us. It may be buried really deep, but it's there. And so our aim is to, in every program we do, to activate that quality in people so they can begin to recognize themselves in this way, whatever it's called. I've met a lot of bodhisattvas who never heard the word. I've lived and worked all over the world, in Africa and India and Mexico and Guatemala and ghettos, on Lear jets and in corporate companies. And I have met lots of bodhisattvas who never heard the word. We must remember this as we continue to transmit our unique contributions. The second one is to that narrative, that social status structure, by race, by gender, by class, there's a part of that that's inherent in the design of species. I'll simply say it that way. So for me, one of the questions is, do we want to be in charge of our own species? Or just we want to be willy-nilly and let stuff just happen? You know, people are like, I'm really scared of artificial intelligence. I'm not. I'm scared of human intelligence. Because artificial intelligence can only do what human intelligence puts into it. Basic teachings on nutrition in Buddhism. What you bring in comes out. That's the organic way of life itself. The second principle for us is training people and training ourselves in releasing our stored trauma. I can share many stories of my experience with the impact of trauma, both personally, collectively, and historically. But I'll tell one story. I had a chance to be on the panel at the University of California several years ago with James Lawson. And James Lawson was the man that Martin Luther King sent to India to learn Mahatma Gandhi's method of nonviolence. And we had a imam there, we had a rabbi there, we had a Catholic priest there, etc. We had a shaman there. And the question was, what is justice in your tradition? And everybody talked about 10 minutes. And James Lawson, who organized everything, was the last person to speak. And he basically said, I can hardly get words out of my mouth. He was crying. We've all said the same thing. Why are we not living it? And so I took that as a meditation for myself, because I couldn't answer the question when he asked it. I hadn't looked deep enough. And the more I looked and the more I practiced and learned, I discovered it's a traumatic impact in our own bodies and minds. I've done a lot of work with reconciliation situations. And one of the fundamental things I've noticed is that most of this process is derailed by trauma, traumatic responses to trauma itself in the body of the people who are there. It's not their heads. We keep coming to conferences trying to solve head problems when our bodies won't go along. People are in pain, neurological pain. It's not just physical pain. And the traumatic world and research going on, we now know that we think trauma can be passed from generation to generation. And some tentative studies suggest that. If that turns out to be verified in many, many ways, it would help explain a lot. I had an experience in Chicago in the 60s after Martin Luther King was murdered. And we had gotten together a group of people from churches and basically churches, 50 African Americans and 50 white Americans to talk about racial healing. And we were in a great little facility and people came in, and I could tell when we all got into the room, this wasn't going to work. But I didn't know why. I just absolutely knew this wasn't going to produce what we all wanted to produce, which was a better outcome than past conversations like this, a better outcome in our listening to one another, a better outcome in our respect for one another. And I realized after some years of study and practice myself, trauma creates trauma. It activates other people's trauma. Trauma is contagious. Even just in a little, some of you are married, have been married, may be married, want to be married. You should, to my learning of the world, and I've lived in many, many countries, is that we're all in a state of traumatic activation, both from a macro level of the state of the world, the wars that are happening, and the rumors of wars that may happen, to our daily streets, the fear people have to go anywhere and feel safe, particularly in the USA. To go to a church, a mosque, a synagogue, Walmart, for God's sake, people don't school. We spend a lot of time working with K through 12 schools and mindfulness in other parts of the world, and it's almost impossible to have a conversation with the school systems here in this country, even though there's some research that suggests that giving children an opportunity to meditate is much more effective than punishing them, without a question. And yet we hesitate. We have thrown so many of our children into the sea of forgetfulness because we have not been willing to face our own trauma. And everyone is traumatized. When I wrote the book on America's racial trauma, somebody thought I was just talking about Black people. No, that's an illusion. It is not possible to traumatize another person without yourself being traumatized. No escape from that. That's biology. And then it's psychology. And then it's sociology. But the trauma is a bodily state of being. And it can be healed. I am aware of the wounds of my father and his father in me. But I don't have to be wounded by the wounds I carry. That's liberation. I don't hide from my wounds. Actually, I've learned how my wounds can open my heart and transform my mind. I don't have to be a victim to my life, to history. Our third principle is giving people the chance to have the experience of beloved community. I know that's a popular phrase. I know that's something Martin used to talk about all the time. The last conversation, as I understand it, that Thich Nhat Hanh had with Martin Luther King, which was in New York, was about beloved community. It's the only way we will save ourselves in this planet. And I've read that, I've sat with that, talked about that, and I'm now clear that beloved community is a wonderful idea. It's a wonderful aspiration. But beloved community is also a lived experience. In the American Psychological Association, I mentioned this the other day, that recently, a couple of years ago, reached a conclusion that information only impacts change a little bit. What impacts change in people's lives is the experience they have. It's the experience that can change the story, not another story fighting with another story. And we want to solve things at a level that wasn't where they got created. You know, Einstein quote, "You can't solve a problem at the same level of energy that created it." So we can heal our trauma. That doesn't mean life is not going to be painful. It does mean our lives don't have to be driven by the unskillful training or in events and incursions we have had in our lives. Because whatever goes on inside of our internal body, mind life spills out into history unavoidably. So, healing, giving ourselves a chance to experience the profundity of being human, not just the capacity to shop. I think it's so ridiculous to define ourselves by such stupid things. You know, we have a wonderful little dog we rescued in Mexico, and we brought him back. He was in a cage for 3 months at a vet's office. We got him out of the cage, and he came from a traumatic experience on the streets, and we had no idea that today, tonight, and last night, he attacks us with kisses all the time. I'm telling you this story about Tashi, which is his name, Japanese for loving friend. We had no idea he was such a kisser. We gave him that name. And I know this is true of other beloved pets, but I take Tashi also as an object of meditation, like I take all phenomena when I'm at my best. And he is a great teacher of stillness. He can just sit and not move. So I've been practicing with making sure I'm able to take some time every day, 3 or 4 times, to just be still with whatever I'm doing. And it's amazing what I can see that's right in front of my face that I can't see when I'm not still. And so our practices are so fundamental in transforming our trauma, so that we can realize our full capacity. And for me, the traumatic transformation is not just about feeling better. It's about the release of energy that is now still hidden in your body and your mind. It is about the prison of your imagination, locked up with the trauma. And it's not just the trauma, it's how I'm dealing with it. No, we're adaptive creatures. That's part of our genius. It's part of the reason we've survived so long. We're adaptive creatures. But many of us now mistake our adaptation to traumatic experience as our capacity for being human. I'm going to try to say that one more time because I think it's part of at the center of our crisis spiritually. We have come out of the 20th century and centuries before filled with traumatic activity. Wars, rumors of wars, genocides, slavery, all over the planet. That is not a history book. That is a traumatic imprint in the hearts and minds of everyone. Inescapable biology here. And so when I started to realize, I started to get myself educated and trained and in the trauma field. And so I am not afraid because I know how to care for my trauma. And the more I'm able to care for how I've been trying to cope with my pain, the pain gets to be less. I get to be a more skillful human being. And the natural capacity in me for kindness and compassion and shared joy, I've discovered can really grow beyond my capacity to understand it. And so that's my code word for that practice I'm describing now for myself is from heart to cosmos and back again. The inner journey and the outer journey. We must keep practicing to elevate our heart and mind, wisdom and consciousness, but we must bring it back to the day, to the days we have, to the world we are in. And I wish there was a way, people, you start to use language like bodhisattva and people, I've never heard that. What is this? What kind of religion is this? It's got nothing to do with religion. It has to do with being a human being. And religion, when it is religion, recognizes that humanity. And so we have confused what we've recognized with what we've called it. and therefore also help fragment ourselves and not understanding, as Thich Nhat Hanh would remind us, our interbeing with one another. And it's that experience of these three principles for me that are for us in Lotus to help create safety. Skills so people can know and experience how to create safety in their own bodies. Skills and experience so people can experience how to create safety in groups, whether that's a work group or a neighborhood group or a family. And skills so that people can deepen their capacity to listen and recognize true joy. My mother, I've been talking about her a lot lately, but I talk about her because she adopted me when I was 8 months old. And so I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, in the Pentecostal church. It was my church my parents helped found. And my mother was what you'd call a shouter, a dancer at church, which my grandmother really didn't like because my grandmother went to the Highfalutin Baptist Church. There was a big building and the minister went to seminary and et cetera, 1,000 people. And anyway, they got along fine, but she always had a toothpick about that. Anyhow, so many bodhisattvas in the world who don't know that's them, who don't recognize their own beauty their own gifts, however small. We worked with a young woman from Japan who was an artist, and in a flower shop we had at one time, and everything she made was quite tiny, but it was just spectacular. And people would walk in the flower shop and they see all these beautiful arrangements, some of which I made, I will say, yes. But her creativity with the beauty that can be revealed in the smallest thing, to me, is all the Bodhisattva vow. It's mundane. But what we bring to the mundane is the extraordinary. And that's the blessings of our ancestors who have transmitted this practice to us, like Bernie. And so I bow to you.
Thanks, Lair.
Sure.
And we want to open up to questions, and Matt's going to help us. You can write them in the chat room, or you can raise your hand. There's a way to do that. Let's see, where is it?
Peggy, it's down under reactions,
Okay.
and you can raise an electronic hand. But frankly, we're a small enough group that I think Matt and I can both see the whole screen. So if anyone wants to use their terrestrial hand, I think we can deal with it.
Let's bring it over. Closer. Nope, and
Hi, Tashi.
here's Tashi. So, do you have any questions or comments, or we've got Matt here too.
Carolyn?
Thank you, everyone, so much. This is really balm for the soul. I'm wondering if you can share that poem with us in a link later on. That was just so beautiful. But everything was so beautiful, so I don't want to ask for just the poem, but I would love to be able to have that poem to share with others. So,
Sure.
thank you.
And,
A pleasure.
and Grace on the screen here is helping us collect Larry's poems. And so that's kind of a process we're in, is finding them everywhere. And that's one, I love that one. I can feel the gathering. I can almost see it. But yes, we can share it, and we're also in trying to do something with it. And with Larry's new book, there's going to be an audio with that. So there's going to be him recording poems. So that's, yes, we're happy to share it, and we're happy to try to get them out there. We think they're amazing, and it's very hard to publish poems. The publishers say, oh, nobody wants poems. And I think the publishers are wrong. We could get that to you. Thank you.
And Carolyn, we also have on social media, I put some links in the chat there. So on Facebook and Instagram, we share poems from time to time from Larry on those avenues as well. We have a Dharma talk from Larry on Wednesday, December 20th, and we usually have a poem to start each talk. So, but yeah, we'll definitely get that one to you. Thank you.
I think my boss slipped away. Nolan, are you here? Oh, we'll get Eden.
Hi, Eden.
Hello all. Thank you so very much for this beautiful Lotus presentation. I'm very touched. I'm finishing up with Dharma Heart, a practice period where we've studied the Lotus Sutra, no less. And so how appropriate. And how I realized that, all the jeweled realities that are written about in the Lotus Sutras that are sometimes so incomprehensible are really written about what we carry in our humanity. And so it was from what you were saying, from the personal to the cosmic and back. And I very really appreciate the somatic, the very simple yet so valuable somatic steps you took us through, Peggy.
Yeah, thank
It
you.
made a huge difference in my body. And I realized how much of that I need to dive into and practice. So and what a beautiful combination of both your teachings together. Uh, where would you guide us to have more of that experience? That is something that I would really love to know. Thank you.
Yeah, Larry, I'll have some comments here, but Trauma Resource Institute was where we're trained, and we're trainers with that organization. And there's a lot they're doing virtually, Trauma Resource Institute. But we also are fans of Deb Dana, Dana, and her work. What I've liked about Trauma Resource Institute is they have two programs, one like for therapists and the other for the rest of us, to learn how to self-stabilize our nervous system. And so this is what we're offering from age 4 on up. And we hope to put together some Instagrams or something because we've heard from so many parents who shared it with their kids, and then the kids remind the parents. And so, in one of the programs I had, we had the seniors helping the sophomores, and the sophomores helping the 8th graders, and the 8th grades helping the 6th graders, and on down to age 5. What is he doing? He's eating something. Dog's eating the chair. Excuse me. No,
I'll say something more about that.
let me grab the dog, sir.
What's so great about this particular method, or any method that's coherent in terms of trauma training,
Sorry.
is an actual situation occurred in San Bernardino County, where we were doing some of this work with schools. And then there was a dangerous person who got loose
escaped prisoner with guns.
Person got loose on the streets, and it was, chaos and sirens and police cars, and kids from the poorest areas knew how to stabilize each other.
Beautiful.
We had kids we worked with from the Doves program, which were all kind of hidden from dangerous families, that went to the different classrooms, and they'd learn to recognize when a person was self-stabilized, and taught the whole classrooms how to get steady. Wow. And that to me was the fruit of my practice. I don't like hearing that sound of a chair being, hang on. Stop it. Stop it.
So I think what we're trying to say is we have experienced, and many people have, children can learn how to do this.
And we can too.
And we can too. And and our children need to learn how to do this.
Yes, they certainly do.
So they don't become dependent simply on digital stimulation. We have a whole generation of some younger people who've actually only learned how to be human by interaction with the computer. A digital experience of humanity.
Yeah.
That's what we've heard this from younger people.
We do have 2 longer retreats next year, one in May in Rhode Island and one in Barre, Massachusetts, Barre Institute. If you haven't studied or practiced there, it's a beautiful, beautiful facility with like a perfect Zendo that has different temperatures. It's a really beautiful Zendo and great food. And the only problem on the East Coast seems to be ticks, but we'll get better with ticks, right? They don't seem to be doing well with this climate change there. A lot of ticks on the East Coast, but you are mostly East Coast, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
California here. Anyway.
Okay.
We have plenty here too.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Oh, is that just about Pat? You gotta unmute, unmute yourself.
Hi, I just wanted, we just came off the retreat with Larry and Peggy here in Oklahoma. And I just wanted to chime in and say it's been 21 years that we've been in association with the Lotus Institute. And our organization is called the Silence Foundation. And you can probably imagine why we're friends. But the Lotus Institute has absolutely been like a lighthouse for us. It has guided every decision that we have made in our founding, in our mission, in the way we do programs on the ground. And I just don't think we would be able to serve the way that we are without Larry and Peggy and the Lotus Institute. And so if any of you represent organizations, I just really recommend the partnership because they're such accessible people and down to earth people, as you can tell. And it's just a pure joy. We had such a joyous weekend. We're all kind of a little bit high.
Thanks, Pat. Pat had a really inspired way to work with meditation with children by using the Silence Foundation and doing practices in school systems where they learn about silence and the language of silence. And in particular, their work is about helping children to work with art and writing too, about what that is, and helping the kids to make books where they can share what they've learned from silence. So very, very clever, especially in a state like Oklahoma, where a word like meditation is not too well received for the most part. But very clever to do Silence Foundation and teach children how to write and to notice and to breathe. So thanks for the testimonial, Pat. Yeah, Grace. Oh, I'm doing Matt's job.
Question for all of us here is stimulated by your use of the word intergenerational. And for those of us like our Blue Heron Sangha in Central Ohio, which is composed mostly of people in my wonderful age group, which is beyond 70, I'm at a loss because my peer group, for the most part, is composed of people who are not 19 or 29. So how can we effectively reach out and bring in others who are, quote, not like me, but I want you to be with us?
Yeah.
For us, the first step is to create a cohort of co-mentors, some of whom are younger than 30 and some of whom reach our direction, Grace. And so that we're putting together a proposal, actually.
Well, we've got 2 grants were accepted.
For the Humera Foundation.
The Lens Foundation.
To sponsor, to organize a program where we can get together enough to hear each other enough to ask ourselves what should be done. But right now, we're not even having the conversation. So we need, and then that cohort can help develop the curriculum, the methods, etc., and learnings from each other that can help many people, many families, many. Because the other thing I want to say is it's important that I have the luxury of, as an aging person, to have a real clear sense of purpose. So I don't wake up any day and feel like I'm not contributing or I can't contribute. But I know millions of people who have much to contribute, like everyone here who has no vehicle or no understanding or some combination thereof, where they feel purposeless. And this is a time in human history where all of us need to me, recognize our purpose. One is to save the earth from ourselves. And if we get together and ask ourselves, how do we save the earth from ourselves? We can come up with a program to do that. But it can't be implemented successfully unless it's cross-generational in strategy.
So our proposal right now, we've got we keep getting like half the grant amount of money we asked for, but we're getting some money. But the first part is going to be what we're calling Anamkara, which is a soul friend, because a lot of the material on coaching doesn't work. It's not therapy. It's not spiritual direction, which is very Christian oriented and looking out there. So we're designing a curriculum that should start. It'll be virtual for our age group in particular. Because the other thing we've seen in our work is there's great minds out there that aren't being utilized, and great hearts that aren't being utilized. So to have this kind of virtual, it's going to be every 2 week, about how to spiritual mentor. And I taught this at the university, and so I've had a lot of time with the literature that doesn't really reflect our roots in Buddhism, and doesn't capture how to be expansive with how we see this. So you'll find a lot of the literature. Well, I do love the Quaker approach, where you just sit together in silence and pray. That's pretty right on there, right? So that's going to be first step. And then the next step is going to be a 9-month to 12-month program with under the age of 30, where we want to connect people with a mentor. The developmental literature is very clear, especially for men, that the function of a mentor has to be a non-family member, can't be a parent. Those of us in this room might know this from your own experience, the important place of another person in your development and helping people cross the chasm. An interesting research point was put out by Thinkific just a month ago. And what they stated, it was nice to see something about some of these younger generations that is positive. Since the millennia, the children have been born with an understanding and that they have an inner life. Now, most of us in this room knew this, but we weren't treated too well about it. I mean, I got in trouble all the time for talking to trees. Since the year 2000, there is this sensibility about having an inner life that we've been hard pressed to develop, especially at my age group in the over 70 category. So that's the other thing I want to learn about more about how to do that, and to connect with the wisdom and the creativity. And also, they're the ones that are really going to have a mess. I don't see things getting better quicker. But I do think we have to help people create islands of safety and islands of sanity. And this is what we can offer as a Buddhist community, as a Zen community, these skills. So whether it's Pat with her wisdom to just go at it with silence, a friend of mine that's a Buddhist Dharma teacher is in an assisted living facility, and she offers walking meditation, but it's called the silent stroll. That is a skillful means. She can bypass whether it's this or that and just call it a silent stroll. So yeah, we're quite passionate about what we're trying to create right now. We hope this next grant, we don't know what to ask for, since it seems like we get half of what we ask for. So let's really ask for some money, because we want to have enough money to pay to help get some of these younger people to first of all, the retreat. And we just had the 19-year-old receive the mindfulness trainings along with an 89-year-old person. So this also was important for me this weekend, to see this connection and to make it one that is nourishing, because these young people are really amazing. They like us because we're different. So that gives us, lucky us. Yeah. No, I'll quite see if there's another question or comment or in
David
that.
has a question. David?
Yeah, I really appreciate this talk. I came here completely out of curiosity. I practice Zen Buddhism in the Plum Village tradition as well. In Los Angeles, what you were saying, Peggy, about the inner life made me think about my favorite documentary, Won't You Be My Neighbor, the Mr. Rogers documentary.
Yeah.
Watching that made me realize that he was the first person possibly who talked to me about my inner life and how fundamentally important that was. I just wanted to share that I'm really excited to hear about your programs. As someone with a 43-year-old body, I find myself in a position where I both would love to provide mentorship and also would love to receive it. So I'd be curious to hear about any ways I can develop a relationship with your organization.
Great. Well, we're hoping Matt's going to help us with that. He's our communications expert as we're putting this together for 2024, and it's going to happen in 2024.
Right.
Yeah, we got enough money to start with Anam Cara, the mentoring part, which we saw as being critical before we even got together our cohort group of under 30. And this is Tashi, obviously, who's been eating the chair. But hey, I hope to see you.
Yeah, David, you could email me at support@thelotusinstitute.org, and
Okay.
so could Grace or anyone else. And like Peggy said, we're in early stages of that intergenerational mentorship program. But if you'd like to take part, yeah, you're more than welcome to email us at that address I put in the Zoom chat. And for now, it would be kind of us just simply keeping your names handy and maybe write in the email what you'd like to help with. And if you visit our website, you'll get a pop-up or you can scroll to the bottom, and we have a newsletter that will automate all of these messages as well. But I'm with you, David. I am a 37-year-old body, and I'm in that in-between period too of, there's a different style for us. Mentoring and mentorship's required. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting time in that middle range too. Thank you for your question.
Anybody else?
Just a logistical question. I know the recording was taped. Will it be made available to those who signed up but were unable to attend because they had to go to a regular job?
Yes, they will. We'll let people know. We have to cook the video a little bit and then put it up on YouTube. So it takes us a few days, but we'll let folks know when it's al dente.
Thanks,
Thank
Jim.
you.
Joe, are you in your car? I see you're here, or maybe you're not. Maybe you're napping in the room. I see. Are you here? Yeah, I hear your voice. No.
There were a couple of hands there. Carolyn, did you have a question? And then Eden?
Well, will that video be available to other people or just people who've signed up for this? I'm not always sure how everything works with YouTube, which that would be a really great way.
You should be able to share the link.
With younger people.
You should be able to share the link.
Eden?
Yes, I wanted to give thanks and gratitude to Zen Peacemakers and Jeff here for introducing us to the Lotus Institute to begin with. And also, I recently was at a morning where you brought together both Palestinian and Jewish folks who live in Israel.
Oh, you were at that one.
Right on the ground. Excuse me?
Yes, we did that. Yeah, you were there.
Were you? Yeah. And you know how profoundly touching and real that was. And then to have the link sent that we could review that, refill it, and share it. So thank you, Zen Peacemakers, very deeply.
Yeah. Well, we've been invited back to Israel and Palestine. We haven't said yes yet. Or when, but we've been invited back there, and feel very called to continue to support. And that was a lovely morning, wasn't it? It must have been pretty early at your house, but yeah, we had a beautiful meeting of folks from Jerusalem and Palestine, and yeah, it was quite lovely. Glad you could be there. Anybody else? Oh. Well,
Yeah.
oh, Matt. Am I doing your job again, Matt? Sorry.
It's okay, Peggy. In the in-between space, maybe I'll just share a quick comment that we have a few upcoming events I put in the Zoom chat there. So one is coming very quickly. Peggy has a morning meditation tomorrow that you're more than welcome to join us for. Wednesday, December 20th, Larry will be giving a Dharma talk. And those events are like we did today. We'll have a short somatic practice and guided meditation from Peggy, and then a talk from Larry. So please, if you're available, welcome to join us for that. And then maybe a special event to share is the Oracle reading. So this is an annual event we do every Tet. Tet this year, the Lunar New Year, is the Year of the Dragon. And so we're going to have one of our dear sisters from the Plum Village monastic community join us, as well as some other spiritual teachers. And essentially, it's a night of magic and mystery and poetry. So we'll be together to share where we're at in our lives, what our questions are for the year ahead. And you can ask these questions to the Oracle, and the Oracle will provide you with their poetic response to guide you into the year ahead. So it's a really fun event. It's music, poetry, bit of magic. So please attend that one too if you're interested. But yeah, we can go back for some questions if anyone has any more in these final minutes.
Yeah.
So one more question, maybe for Peggy or Larry, about somatic training. Meditation and Sufism for me and life in general have been a great education and coming to the body finally. And I know how scary the body can be for those of us who've had trauma in our childhood. And that's all of us since intergenerationally and worldwide, right? So where would you begin? You mentioned, I think, the Trauma Resource Institute. And
Yes.
are there trainings that do not cost so much money that one like myself would not be able to attend and yet have deep yearning to do this so I can be of greater service?
The Trauma Resource Institute is located in Claremont, California.
Oh, cool.
And they have several different ways of engaging with people and offering their training. Part of a program that Peggy worked in when we lived in Claremont was funded. And the work with schools and the poorest areas of California, all of that training was funded by foundations and contributions from individuals. And they have scholarships, et cetera, et cetera. We are often called into the network when there's a trauma event in the world. So the last time we were actually with our dear friend Elaine was in Mexico for the earthquake, where we went and worked with psychiatrists there and training them in trauma in the neighborhood where the earthquake happened. Living there, not in a hotel 10 miles away, and meeting with people in the streets, listening to them, etc. And these are skills those young psychiatrists were able to learn in a week. Bright people, heart open people, skillful professionals. It's just training like anything else. We have the capacity, but not the training.
And you're right, the field's been, there's really some wonderful teachers, but most of the programs are wildly expensive.
Yeah.
And so that's where there are some really great YouTube resources. And I think the Trauma Resource Institute has kept the community resiliency model. That's the self-stabilization, a little more reasonable than some of those other ones.
I will say that our efforts to design a new trauma training program will be cheaper than everybody else.
That's for sure. That's been our MO.
So it will be, and there is an online course we already have online called the Earth Gate.
Beautiful. Okay.
And it's about understanding ourselves as earthlings and the traumatic nature of understanding our ways to deal with trauma, recognize trauma, respond to it, etc. And that's already, it's at a good price point.
We did do something with Zen Peacemakers with the lynching program, a profound, deep weekend where we worked with a whole morning with the Florida community that took on restoring humanity to a person that had been lynched in their small city. And as part of the weekend, we viewed Brian Stevenson's amazing museum.
Yeah.
So we were brought in for that program. And I had, with the planners, I insisted we do some somatics. And the Zen Peakers you were great to respond to say yes to that. Because I think you got to do some somatics. This is so destabilizing to even use the word lynching. Larry taught at Lynchburg University this year, and I said, I don't know if I can handle that. I'm sure it has nothing to do with lynching, but especially, that's a trigger word. So yeah, that is available out there.
And maybe we're at the bottom of the hour. Maybe I'll just
Right.
jump in with a couple of schedule things for Zen Peacemakers. Speaking of that, Peggy, we took that virtual event that we did a few years ago, and we have been in person in Alabama now 2 years running.
Nice.
We just put up our dates for 2024. Don't have them in my head, but they're on the website. So we spend 3 days in Selma and a couple of days in Montgomery. We have close relations with EJI. We'll be at the National Memorial for Peace and Justice. We have connections with local Black clergy and Black activists in Selma, and it's been a real rich event for 2 years. That's open to everybody. That's coming up in April 24. And then finally, just another schedule reminder. Next Tuesday, our good friend Joan Halifax will be my guest.
Okay.
Tuesday morning at noon U.S. Eastern Time. So, and that's this kind of a format. So it's free and open to everybody. So please join us if you like. And with that, we're overstaying our welcome. So thank you to Larry and Peggy and Matt and Mona and everybody and all of you for being with us. And come be with us again. We hope.
Thank you so much. Happy practice. Take
Thank
care
you,
of yourself.
everyone.